The air in the desert is entirely still. The thick, terrifying pillar of cloud that has just descended upon the camp suddenly lifts, vanishing into the harsh wilderness sky. At the entrance of the sacred tent, a man turns to look at his sister. She is standing frozen. Her skin, which just moments before was flushed with the heat of self-righteous anger, is now dead white. It is flaking. It is diseased. It is leprosy. The woman who only a few years prior had led an entire nation in a triumphant anthem of freedom has just been instantly and violently stripped of her dignity. How does the first daughter of a fractured people end up cursed and exiled from the very community she helped build? To understand the tragedy of this moment, we must turn back the clock decades earlier to the muddy, treacherous banks of the Nile River in Egypt. A decree of genocide hangs over the Hebrew slaves. Every male infant is to be drowned. Yet, amid the papyrus reeds, a young girl keeps a silent, vigilant watch over a small, tar-sealed basket drifting in the shallows. Her name is Miriam, and inside the basket is her infant brother. When an Egyptian princess comes down to bathe and discovers the child, Miriam does not panic. She calculates. She steps out of the shadows of the reeds with supreme composure and approaches the royal entourage. She offers to find a Hebrew wet nurse for the boy. In a single brilliant maneuver, she secures her brother's survival and her mother's employment. Miriam is the original protector. Without her watchful eye, there is no Moses. Without her courage, there is no Exodus. She is the quiet architect of her people's future. Decades pass. The infant in the reeds grows into the man who breaks an empire. We find Miriam again on the shores of the Red Sea. The Egyptian army has been swallowed by the crashing waters. The air is thick with salt, the deafening roar of the waves, and the sheer, intoxicating shock of absolute liberation. As we read in the book of Exodus, Miriam takes a tambourine in her hand. All the women follow her, dancing and playing. She is not merely Moses' sister anymore. She is recognized as a prophetess. She leads the new nation in a fierce, joyful song of victory. At this moment, she stands at the absolute peak of her influence. She is an equal pillar of the revolution, a founding mother of Israel. But power is a heavy, intoxicating thing, and the wilderness has a way of wearing down even the noblest of hearts. Months, perhaps years, blur into a grueling march across the desert. The heat is unrelenting. The burden of managing a frightened, complaining populace is immense. Moses is the supreme leader. He alone enters the tent of the Lord's presence. He alone speaks with God face to face. And somewhere in the suffocating dust of the camp, a quiet, corrosive resentment begins to take root in Miriam's mind. The protective instinct of an older sister begins to warp into the envy of a rival. The spark that ignites the crisis is a marriage. Moses takes a Cushite wife, a foreign woman. To Miriam and to her brother Aaron, this is an unacceptable breach of protocol. It is an insult to their Hebrew identity, and they begin to openly criticize him. But as the narrative unfolds, it becomes clear that the marriage is merely an excuse. The true grievance is about authority. They stand outside the tents, whispering their discontent. Is it true that the Lord has spoken only through Moses, they ask? Hasn't he also spoken through us? It is a subtle, highly dangerous shift. Miriam is demanding parity. She is leaning on her past sacrifices, her status as a prophetess, and her role as the protective older sister to claim a power she was never given. She believes she is owed more. The text notes a chilling detail. The Lord hears them. There is no prolonged debate. The response from the divine is instantaneous. A voice speaks directly to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Come out, all three of you, to the tent of my presence. Imagine the walk through the camp, the sudden, heavy silence falling over the Israelites, the three siblings walking toward the sacred enclosure. The pillar of cloud descends. The Lord commands Aaron and Miriam to step forward, separating them from Moses. The voice that speaks from the cloud does not negotiate. It clarifies the absolute hierarchy of heaven. God explains that while he speaks to prophets in visions and dreams, his relationship with Moses is entirely different. He speaks to Moses directly, clearly, and not in riddles. The indictment falls with a crushing weight. "Why then," the voice asks, "were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" The anger of the Lord burns against them. The cloud abruptly departs, and Miriam is left entirely alone in her devastation. Why is Miriam struck with the dreaded skin disease, while Aaron seemingly not? Perhaps she was the primary instigator. Perhaps her fall from grace needed to be as public as her triumphant song at the Red Sea. Whatever the reason, the consequence is immediate. Aaron is horrified. He turns to Moses, begging for mercy, finally recognizing the sheer foolishness of their pride. And Moses, the brother Miriam once watched over in the reeds, now cries out to protect her. "O God, heal her," he pleads. God grants mercy, but he demands accountability. He dictates that if her own father had spat in her face, she would be disgraced for 7 days. Therefore, she must face the consequence of her insurrection. Miriam is ordered to be shut out of the camp for 7 days. It is an absolute public humiliation. The great prophetess is forced outside the boundaries of the community, sitting in the dust as an outcast. But then, something remarkable happens. The entire nation of Israel stops. Hundreds of thousands of people, eager to reach the promised land, halt their march. They do not pack their tents. They do not move forward. They wait in the harsh wilderness for 7 full days until Miriam is brought back in. It is a silent, profound testament to how deeply she was revered despite her failing. The story of Miriam leaves us with a deeply uncomfortable reflection on the nature of leadership and human pride. It is a warning about the fragility of our own intentions. Miriam saved a nation before it was even born. She sang the song that defined their freedom. Yet, in the end, she had to learn that past sacrifices do not grant us immunity from present arrogance. It asks us to examine the quiet, insidious nature of entitlement, how easily the right to advise turns into the demand to control. When we look closely at our own desires for influence, a haunting question remains. When we demand to be heard, are we genuinely seeking what is right? Or are we simply desperate for the power we feel we are owed? If you enjoyed this story, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. There are many more stories from Scripture over Tea still to explore. You can also turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And if this story meant something to you, feel free to share it with someone else. Thank you for listening.